Okie dokie. There we go. Now my face is still in the corner. All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about today, we're going to talk about mid-segments of triangles. So what the heck, first of all, is a mid-segment? So when we're talking about a mid-segment, the main thing we want to talk about first is a midpoint. Come on. Hang on, sorry. Okay, the first thing we want to talk about is come on, why won't you work? Oh. Take a deep breath, Mrs. Davis. It's going to be all right. Okay, let's hang on one second. I can do this. I'm sorry. Thank you for being patient with me. Is it because it's on eraser? It was because that was on eraser. Okay, cool. Let's try this again. Haha, okay. Then we're going to click here, and then he's going to start up here, and then I can write. Woohoo! I'm the smartest person in the world. Okay, so let's start over. So, a mid-segment. A mid-segment that connects the midpoints of each side. So remember a midpoint. A midpoint is the point that divides a segment into two congruent parts. So each side is the same. It's a point right in the middle, all right? So D is right in the middle between between A and D. You're seeing what now? Oh, bummer. Okay. Is it working now? Can we see what we're supposed to? Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, it just popped up. You're good.
Good deal. Okay. So, a midpoint is a point right in the center between two other points. It cuts a segment into two congruent parts. So D is right in the center between A and C, right? So that means that CD is congruent to DA. Those two little parts are the same. Now, E is the midpoint of CB. So that means the distance between C and E, and the distance between E and B is going to be the same. So that means that these two little bits are going to be congruent. Now, once we actually connect the midpoints, that's what makes my mid-segment. Okay, so it's going to tell me down here that M, P, and N are midpoints. So we want to know which segments are congruent by definition of midpoint. All right, so it tells me that M is a midpoint, right? So that means that each side is congruent. AM and MB, those are going to be congruent to each other. So what segments are congruent? AM is congruent to MB. Now in the chat, go ahead and tell me, since P is a midpoint, what is BP congruent to? What is PB congruent to? CP, very good, yeah. So each side is going to be congruent. BP is going to be congruent to CP. What are the last two congruent pieces? What are the last two segments that are congruent since N is a midpoint? You could have had PC too, that would have been fine. All right, so N is the midpoint. Which two segments are going to be congruent because N is the midpoint? Yeah, good. So we have this little part right here, AN, and he's going to be congruent to that guy on the other side, NC. Ooh, that's an N. Congruent to NC. Good deal. So now we want to name the three mid-segments. So the mid-segments are the spots that connect my midpoints. So MP is one mid-segment. In the chat, send me another mid-segment. Yeah, beautiful. There's another one. So connecting our midpoints M and N, there's another guy, MN. There's another mid-segment. Where's my last mid-segment? There's one more. Good, yeah, from P to N, connecting our midpoints from P to N. So PN is another mid-segment. Beautiful, or NP. NP would be fine too, yeah. All right, so I'm gonna stay here for just a second if you wanna take a screenshot of that before I go on scrolling. Okay, here we go. So we're not just talking about a mid-segment because it's fun to connect midpoints, which, I mean, it could be. But a mid-segment has a special relationship to that third side of our triangle. So if we have a mid-segment, if we have a mid-segment, so right here, DE is our mid-segment. Here's the relationship it's going to have with that third side, AC. First of all, they're going to be parallel to each other. Or remember, you might see that as DE is parallel to AC. You might see that symbol sometimes too. So here's why it's important that DE is parallel to AC and why we're even talking about mid-segment right now. Because I know sometimes it feels like, we're talking about, similar triangles, yay, yay, yay. And then it feels like we're just pulling mid-segment out of our butt all of a sudden. It's like, where did that come from? I swear to God, it has a point right now. So remember, we have parallel lines, and we have parallel lines with a transversal. So remember, we talked about those corresponding angles and alternate interior angles and things like that, right? Well, angle A and angle D, those are corresponding angles. And when lines are parallel, they're going to be congruent. So now I know angle BDE and BAC, those are going to be congruent to each other because they're corresponding angles. The same thing is going to happen over here with angle E and angle C. Those guys on both sides are corresponding angles. And when lines are parallel, they're congruent. And of course, angle B is going to be congruent to itself. So our mid-segments actually make two different similar triangles, right? There's the original triangle, and then when we draw that mid-segment in, he makes a similar triangle that fits inside of it. Okay, so another thing that's helpful is that DE is half the length of the third side. So DE is equal to 1/2 the length of AC. Another way to think about it is that 2 times the length of the midsegment is equal to the third side. That's the exact same equation, just written in a little bit of a different way. I know that fractions can scare people, so we'll rewrite it in a different way so we don't scare anybody. Okay, so DE is the midsegment of ABC. We want to find the value of X. And we want to remember that 2 times the midsegment is equal to the third side. I'm going to keep that little note with me. Okay, so DE is my midsegment, right? So in A, X is on that midsegment. So that means in that 2 times the midsegment equals the side. Since X is my midsegment, X is going to go in for midsegment. And then my third side is 34, so I'm going to set that equal to 34. Or you might just be thinking, well, you said that the midsegment is half the length of the third side. Half of 34 is whatever, so I know the answer. That's fine too. However you want to work these out works for me too. So either you thought of, well, it's just going to be half of 34, which is blank, or on each side of this equation you divided by 2. Either way, what length do we get for X? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I will slow down. I'm sorry. So the big thing that we need to know is that the midsegment is parallel to the third side, and that 2 times the midsegment is equal to the third side. So if you want to think about it as half the length of 34 is blank, or you can plug in X for the midsegment and 34 for that side. Either way, when we solve, what do we end up with for X? Very good. Yeah, 17. Beautiful. Now B is going to be a little bit different. So DE is my mid-segment, right? This time, they didn't give me a length of a mid-segment. They gave me lengths of a side of the triangle, right? But since DE is a mid-segment, E is what kind of point? What kind of point is E? Remember what kind of points connect? Yes, very good. So the mid-segment connects the midpoints, right? So that means that E is a midpoint. And since we know that E is a midpoint, that means that both sides of it are the same. So both sides of E are the same. Both sides of E are the same. Close enough. All right, so what's X going to be equal to if both sides of E are the same? Very good. Sorry, the chat is on my other monitor, so I keep kind of bouncing back and forth. Good. So since E is a midpoint, both sides are the same. So that means if between E and C is 8, between A and E is also 8. So X is equal to 8. Okay, in this last one, DE, that is my mid-segment. And AB is my third side. So I know I do have to use that formula that I have right here, right? That 2 times the mid-segment equals the side. So 2 times the mid-segment equals the side. So in this one, what will I put in for the mid-segment? In C, what number do I put in for the mid-segment? Very good. Yeah, so my mid-segment, remember it connects my midpoints. So my mid-segment is 7. Perfect. And we want that to be equal to the third side, the other side. What should I put in for that side? Like what from the picture should I put in over there? Good, yeah. So that third side is AB, and he's going to be X. Perfect. So then we'll solve. 2 times 7 is 14. If that bothers you, you can always switch it around. I know that sometimes that makes people sad. Okay, so take a screenshot of that if you need to. I'm going to wait 1 more minute if you need to finish writing something down. Okay. Okay, so DE is a mid-segment of ABC. Find the measures of the angles. So I'm going to wait just 1 moment for you to draw that out. I know it takes a minute to draw the diagrams for geometry, so I'll take a second. Soon I'll be able to give you packets. I can't wait. Okay. So, one of the things that we learned about midsegments earlier, we learned two big facts about midsegments. Number one, the midsegment is parallel to the third side. Remember, parallel means they're going in the same direction. We also learned that the midsegment is half the length of the third side. Those are the two big facts that we have to remember. So, when we're looking for the measures of these angles, we want to remember that these lines are parallel to each other. We know that DE is parallel to AC. Now, earlier we talked about parallel lines and transversals, right? Angle A and, oopsies, and angle 75. Come on. Sorry. Okay, angle A and angle 75 have parallel lines. What kind of angles are those two angles? Angle A and that angle with the 75 in there. What kind of angles are those? They are congruent. Yeah. Because they're corresponding. Wonderful. Yes. So when angles are in the same spot like that, those are called corresponding angles. Corresponding. Sorry, I got that into the picture. That's not helpful. Oh my goodness. Why do I keep messing this up? Okay. You can do this, Mrs. Davis. Cool. All right. So corresponding angles we know are congruent. So if angle D is 75, what is angle A? Beautiful. Yeah, since they're congruent, angle A is also going to be 75. Good deal. Now let's talk about angle 1. What angle is angle 1 going to be congruent to? Which angle is angle 1 congruent to? Very good. Very good. Yes, way to go, Lizzie and Enrique. Yeah, those two are, angle 1 is going to be congruent down here to this angle C. Angle 1 is congruent to angle C. So that means, what is the measure of angle 1? What is the measure of angle 1? Very good. Yes, it's going to be 62. Okay. So, I'm going to redraw this triangle real quick. Here's D. Here's B. Here's E. We knew that angle was 75. And we just figured out that this angle over here is 62. Now we're trying to find angle B. How much do all the angles of a triangle add up to be? Exactly right, Lizzie. Very good, Hunter. Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways to do this. I like to think of it as all of my angles. Can you tell I'm getting frustrated with this? Okay. You can do this, Mrs. Davis. Okay, so add them all up and set them equal to 180. And then to find out what x is, we're going to subtract out 75. And we're going to subtract away that 62 as well. Yes, you would still get the same thing if you did 180 minus 62 minus 75, same thing. Yep. So what are we ending up with when we take 180 minus 75 minus 62? $43. Very good. So that means that this angle right here is 43. So angle B, I'm sorry, is 43. I'll give you a second to get that down before we move on to the next ones. Or if you're done writing that stuff down, draw those two pictures down on the bottom, please. Okay, so for this next section, this is where we're looking at those actual lengths of sides, right? So from those two facts that we learned earlier about midsegments, remember those two facts are that the midsegment is parallel to the third side. And if I double the midsegment, I get the third side. 2 times the midsegment is the third side. Those are the two facts I need to remember. By the way, you might notice that I repeat myself a lot. I do that. Get used to it. I'm not changing. Cool. So let's look at this first one. So we need to remember for this stuff that 2 times the midsegment is equal to that third side. All right, so I know I want to have 2 times my midsegment equals the third side. In this picture, what's going to go in for my midsegment? What's going to go in for my midsegment on this one? Very good, yes. So my midsegment is BC, So that means I'm going to put 2x minus 10 in for my midsegment. Nope. Nope. Did I click it too many times? There it goes. Okay. Okay. So my midsegment is that guy in the middle. So I need to put 2x minus 10 in for my midsegment. What will I put in for the third side in that picture? What's the third side? Yes, our third side is going to be 3x minus 10. So we're going to put that in for the side. So my midsegment was at 2x minus 10. He went in for my midsegment. My side was at 3x minus 10, and he went in for my side. So now we need to start solving. What do I need to do first? What do I do first to solve? Well, don't forget we have this 2. Yeah, we have this 2 out front, right? So since I have a 2 out in front of the parentheses, we need to go ahead and distribute him on through. So 2 times 2x is 4x. I have a minus sign in the middle. 2 times 10 is 20. And then we still have that 3x minus 10 over on the right. What's the next thing you want to do? What should we do next to solve? Very good. Yeah, we're going to subtract 3x on both sides. 4x minus 3x is 1x. Then we still have that minus 20. That adds to 0. We still have that negative 10 over here. What do we have to do with that 20 to bring him over to the other side? Very good. Yeah, so I'm subtracting 20. So to be able to bring him over to the other side, we're going to add him on both sides. Beautiful. So negative 10 plus 20 is positive 10. So x equals 10. Okay. So remember, it's still 2 times the midsegment equals the third side. In this problem, what's going to go in for my midsegment? Very good. Good job, Lizzie. Good job, Enrique. Beautiful. So my mid-segment is that spot that goes through the center, that 2x minus 7. That's going to go in for my mid-segment. What goes in for my third side? Very good. Very good, Enrique. Very, very good, Hunter and Lizzie. Yeah, so that third side is going to be the one that connects V and T. That will be x plus 10. So what do we need to do first to start solving? Very good. Yes, wonderful. Good job, Hunter and Lizzie. We're going to distribute that 2 on through. So 2 times 2x is 4x. I have a minus in the middle. 2 times 7 is 14. Then we have that equal sign, and we still have x plus 10 over on the right. Okay, what do you want to do next to solve? I'm on board with that. Awesome. So what I'm hearing from most of you guys is that you would subtract x on both sides first. Perfect. So 4x minus 1x is 3x. We still have that minus 14 equals. X minus x is 0, so we're just left with 10 over on my right side. What should I do next? Perfect, exactly. So since 14 is being subtracted, we need to add him to both sides. I know it's going to be hard to see that plus 14 above my face. 3x equals, those add to 0. 10 plus 14 is 24. And then what will we do last to solve for x? What should we do last? Yeah, very good. We're going to divide by 3 on both sides. So 24 divided by 3, we're going to divide by 3, divide by 3. So x will equal 8. I'll give you a chance to take a screenshot of that. I'll wait here for just a minute before we go and try those last 2 problems. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and scroll. All right, so it says if HJ is equal to 8x minus 2 and DF is equal to x plus 11, find the length of HE. So here we go. if from H to J is 8x minus 2, and from D to F is 2x plus 11, what's the length of HE? Okay, so here's what we know. We know that 2 times the midsegment is equal to the third side. So what's going to go in for our midsegment in this case? Yeah, good deal. So my midsegment there is going to be 2x plus 11. So that will go in for my midsegment, just like before. And what goes in for the other side? Beautiful. Yeah, so my last side, or my third side, is that 8x minus 2. Very good. So just like every other time, I'm going to start by distributing that 2 out. So we'll take 2 times 2x and get 4x. There's a plus in the middle. Two times 11 is 22. And the right side stays the same. What do you want to do next? Good deal. Yeah, I'm the same way. I was taught to keep my x's positive. So I'm going to subtract 4x from both sides. Four x minus 4x is 0. So we're just left with 22 on the left. Eight x minus 4x is 4x. And we still have that minus 2. And then exactly right, to bring that other 2 over, we will add 2 on both sides. So those add to 0. We're just left with 4x on the right. 22 plus 2 is 24 over on the left. So we'll divide by 4 on both sides. What does x end up being equal to? Very good. Yes, x equals 6. but we're trying to find the length of HE, right? So here's what we'll do. We'll find out the length of HJ. So we know X is equal to 6. So 8 times 6 is 48. Minus 2 is 46. So now we know this whole length is 46. So if from H to J is 46, how much is just HE? Very good. So E is a midpoint. So that means it's going to cut that guy right in half. So half of 46 is 23. So HE equals 23. Cool. I'm going to give you a minute to draw out what you need to in the next one. This time it says if HD, this guy, is 3x plus 29, and DG is 14x plus 7, what's the length of EF? Okay. So since DE and DF are mid-segments, and so is EF, we know D is a midpoint, right? What do I know about HD and DG? What do I know about these two pieces that they gave me in the problem? What do I know about HD and DG? Very good. And I like your vocab. Way to go. So I'm seeing they're congruent. Way to go on that vocabulary. I'm also seeing they're the same or they're equal. Very good. So D is a midpoint, so each side is the same. So that means that 14x plus 7 is going to be equal to 3x plus 29. What would you want to do first to solve? Beautiful. So we'll subtract 3x from both sides. Beautiful. Very, very good. 14x minus 3x is 11x. We still have that plus 7 equals 3 minus 3x is 0, so we're just left with 29 on the right side. Now what? Yeah, good deal. So we need to move that 7 over first. So we'll subtract 7 on both sides. And we're just left with 11x, because these will add to 0. And 29 minus 7 is 22. So after we divide by 11, what's x equal to? Beautiful. Good job. X is equal to 2. But what they want us to find is EF. So here's what I would like to do. Let's go ahead and plug in 2. So this piece right here is 3 times 2 plus 29, right? So 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 29 is 35. So now we know, I don't have an eraser, cool. From here to here is 35. Now we can also go through and plug in 2 down here. Oopsies, that's a 14 times 2, sorry. But if you take 14 times 2 and add 7 to it, you're going to end up with 35 again. Because remember, we said that these two pieces were going to be the same. Now, since each piece is 35, that means that from H all the way down to G, if I add together 35 plus 35, that will give me that whole length from H to G, right? That will be 70. Now we know that 2 times the midsegment, or EF, is equal to the length of that third side, which we just found out was 70. So then we'll divide by 2 on both sides and find out that EF is 35.
Miss Davis?
Yes.
Could you also just look at DG and say that it's congruent with EF and then figure out it's 35?
Beautiful. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Exactly right. So here's what we know now. We now know that EF is going to be the same as DG is going to be the same as HD, right? And we could have done the same thing over here. DF is the same thing as HE is the same thing as EJ. You're exactly right. You could absolutely think about it that way. Beautiful. Okay, any other questions on this? Cool. I'm going to stop this recording.